Dear brothers and sisters, we extend you a warm welcome to the Congregation Bible Study for this week. We're discussing Lesson 34, and this one is entitled, Gideon Conquered the Midianites. This is a very important story. In time, Israel again turned away from Jehovah and began to worship false gods, and as a result, for 7 years, the Midianites stole the Israelites' animals and destroyed their crops. That was a tragedy. To escape from the Midianites, the Israelites hid in caves and in the mountains. They did something different. They understood the origin of their situation, so they begged Jehovah to save them. And Jehovah is so merciful and compassionate. He listened to them and he saved them. How? He sent an angel to a young man named Gideon. Now we want to highlight this example because Gideon was an ordinary person. He was not the famous young in Israel. Probably no one knows about Gideon at a time, and no one was aware about his existence, but Jehovah saw his potential. And the angel said to Gideon, Jehovah has chosen you to be a mighty warrior. And Gideon asked, how can I save Israel? I'm nothing. Sometimes we feel like Gideon. We feel like we're nothing, but not for Jehovah. And this changes everything. Jehovah sees your potential. He believes in you that you'll make it, as he did with Gideon. On the other side, we don't want to underestimate the young men in the congregation. They're not famous. Probably they don't have the best concept about their sales, but for Jehovah, they're important. Actually, all we are important before Jehovah. So we're not in the congregation just by chance or because we don't have anything to do. How would Gideon know that Jehovah had chosen him? And this is very important. He received the visit of an angel with a special message. And we want to highlight Jehovah's quality about listening his people. Of course, they did a serious mistake, but Jehovah is so merciful and he gave them another opportunity. There's no doubt how great is our God. Jehovah is patient and merciful. He provided a savior, a human savior. Now Gideon was wishy-washy about to accept this mission, and he wanted to make sure about his call. So he put a piece of wool on the ground and said to Jehovah, like a test, in the morning, if the wool is wet from the dew, but the ground is dry, I know that you want me to save Israel. And that exactly happened. The next morning, the wool was soaking wet and the ground was dry. That was a sign. But then Gideon asked that the next morning that the wool be dry and the ground wet. When that happened, Gideon was finally convinced that Jehovah had chosen him. He gathered his soldiers to fight the Midianites. Now we want to highlight this important quality. Jehovah was not upset to Gideon because he was asking this test. Jehovah understood Gideon had doubts and fears, completely understandable, and He understands that sometimes you and I may have our doubts, our fears, our questions, and Jehovah is able to provide some help to solve our questions, our doubts, our fears through His Word, through prayer, and of course through our dear brothers and sisters in the congregation. So Gideon was convinced about his call as a savior, and the next step was completely unthinkable. Probably Gideon was thinking about how to overcome their enemies, but Jehovah had a different strategy, an unexpected and unthinkable strategy. Jehovah told Gideon, "I'll give the Israelites victory, but because you have so many soldiers, you might think that you won the battle by yourselves. So, tell anyone who's afraid that should go home." Really simple. So 22,000 soldiers went home, plus 10,000 remained. So in total, altogether, 32,000 soldiers was their army. Jehovah then said, "There are still too many soldiers. Bring them to the stream and tell them to drink the water. Keep with you only those who watch out for the enemy while they drink." And guess what? From 10,000 reduced to 300. A big and significant difference. Only 300 of the men stayed alert while they drank. Jehovah promised that these few men would conquer the 135,000 Midianite soldiers. Try to imagine. For human beings, this strategy was completely unthinkable. Like a crazy person, like suicide, but not for Jehovah. He had a different strategy, and Gideon and the 300, they must trust in Jehovah. During that night, Jehovah told Gideon, "Now is the time to attack the Midianites." Gideon gave his men horns and large jars with torches hidden inside. He told them, "Watch me and do exactly what I do." Gideon blew his horn, smashed his jar, waved his torch, and shouted, "The sword of Jehovah and of Gideon." All of his 300 men did the same. The Midianites were terrified and ran wildly in all directions. In the chaos, they began to attack one another. Once again, Jehovah helped the Israelites conquer their enemies. Now, this is an interesting detail, and not many of the friends are aware of this information, but this action of smash the jar and wave the torch and shout it has a special meaning in the army language, of course in biblical times. So with this action, the enemies, the Midianites, they thought the other army, the Israelites' army, were so big in comparison with the Midianites' army. And that's why this action drive them crazy. And they can't figure out how to overcome their enemies, and that's why they attack themselves, one another. So their success of the Israelites was just obeying and following God's instructions. That's the key. In a similar way, today we receive instructions, and our success is about following, obeying instructions. Practical lesson we learn to apply in the congregation is to appreciate every member in the congregation, even babies, even the older ones, the young men. We want to appreciate their presence in the congregation. And we don't say things like, because there are many members, the congregation is so important and valuable in comparison with a congregation with not many members. So everyone in the congregation has a special role in the congregation, and we want to appreciate their work, their presence, and respect them. So dear friends, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day and hope to see you in our next video.